So we have gone through the how a UI is formed using different elements of UI like colors, fonts, lines and shapes, media, patterns, filters, all these things. So now we'll see how the layout should be built. First, we'll talk about responsive design. Since 2008, when Apple launched this iPhone, before that, all the web used to be in the bigger screens. We used to have some CRT monitor, which is square, and everything used to be in that screen. After that, what happened is the screens have changed, and then we started having these mobile screens. Then we have square, then we have squares, then we have even rectangles as well, and also we have these vertical type of screens, like for example, if we rotate this one, we have screens like this, and also we have tablets, which we can say like this. So now if you have to design for all the screens, it used to be very tough that time. All the web pages used to look as in they are in web. You can able to see the same thing in the mobile also. When the first iPhone was launched, eventually code, CSS, HTML has evolved, and they started realizing the network speeds are not so fast in mobiles. Around 2010 they started doing mobile version of a website. That means you have one web version, you have to code for it separately, and you'll have a mobile version separately. So what happens is, you have some, if you have to change something, you have to change in mobile also. It was around 2010 to 2013. Later what happens, CSS has evolved, HTML5 has come, CSS3 has come, then came the responsive design. Responsive design is nothing but you make one design which fits all the screen sizes. I'll show you what it looks like. So we can open any kind of website. This is a full-fledged website, what you are seeing here. Now what I will do, I'll just make this screen mobile. Okay, if you're seeing this one, you have your layout. Everything which is there in that screen is automatically fit into this size. Open the developer options. Here you will be able to see one option called responsive design. Okay, enter responsive design. This is for Safari. For Chrome, the shortcut is Command Shift M. Most of the websites are these days code in this way only, in responsive design. Now I will show the same thing for iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus, iPad Mini, even for that bigger iPad Pro, and then some squares sized screens. Then we have rectangular. Then you have the large size screens. Whatever you have seen, right, this whole page has automatically adjusted itself to different screen layouts, but the code is only one. This is what is responsive design. So you code once and it is automatically adjusted to all the screen sizes. But how do we do that? How it is even possible? With the help of CSS3, there is something called media queries. So media queries help us, based on the screen size, we write that specific code in order to adjust everything in screen size. But there is something called a grid system. So for web, we have 12 column grid system, which is introduced by Bootstrap. So I'll tell you what Bootstrap is.
1 second, Tarun. This CSS script we only have to write it.
No, we don't have to write. That is for developers. I'm just giving the knowledge. So Bootstrap is the CSS library which is written by Twitter for their website. They thought they should make some type of grid system so that Twitter can be responsive. Then once it worked for them, they released it for, it looks something like this. Normally, any space which is there on the screen is divided into 12 columns.
What is this tool that you're using, Tarun?
I'm using Adobe XD. We'll get there. So
Okay.
this is Adobe XD. I'll teach you this tool, how to use it. Okay.
Okay.
So once we are not, so after these, whatever I'm teaching you right now, the UI elements, then immediate the next one is Adobe XD only. Okay.
Okay.
If there is a screen like this screen is divided into 12 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this is 12, and this is called a column. Whatever you're seeing in baby pink, this is a column, and this is the gutter space. We call it as gutter. Okay. Even in Adobe XD also you have this layout thing here. I'll show you how it looks like. So I made an artboard here, full width artboard. If I select layout, it will show me this 12 column grid here. You see, you can adjust the grid. So why this 12 column grid is, for example, this, let us assume this is a screen. Now I'll draw a square here. This square can be an image or any division or anything. Okay. So assume this whole area is a screen. Now I will make one more copy, and I'll make one more copy. So what happened here is, you can see this thing is aligned properly in the 4 columns, right? So basically we used 4 columns to make one rectangle. If I move the same thing into the mobile, so in we'll move to the tablet first. So in tablet we have 8 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me use only 3 here. It can be like 4 also, but for example I want to use only three columns. Okay. So now let us move the same thing here. How many columns are there? Only 8, right? Let us move this here. Now in tablet, what we can do is we can use 4 columns for this and 4 columns for this, and the rest two will automatically come down. This is how this layout is going to look in tablet. So now let us see what happens in mobile. So in mobile we have 4 columns grid. So mobile height is like this much only. We'll just, in mobile, what happens is we'll use the for full width. So rest of it will go down and people can scroll. Did you get the fair idea how the responsive design is going to work? You have an
Yeah.
okay. So this is the reason why we use grid system, basically to align things properly. You can put everything in order, even if you want to have like, so for example, if the layout is like this, you can use 6 columns here completely and 6 completely here. Or also you can do, if you want to use full width, that also you can do.
What if we don't have to like create like mirror image instead of six? Can't we use seven?
We can use 7 also. Okay, so if you push this side, you can do that as well. But
But when it comes to mobile,
uh,
since it's only four grid,
yeah,
how will it distribute?
it will be full width, that's it. Okay, so if it comes, this one comes here,
It will reduce the resolution, I guess.
it will reduce the width and adjust all the content. For example,
Okay, understood.
so here we have the content like this. Let us say, just taking some dummy text which is called Lorem Ipsum. We use this for dummy text most of the times. Okay, so this is the text in this one. Now let us see how this gets adjusted in here. So now in tablet, because the space is more, this one will become like this. In mobile, the space is less. Actually, the font size will increase a bit here. The height can be adjusted, like height can be anything, but the width will get automatically adjusted. Okay. So when somebody asks you to do something uh, in mobile version for the web, for example, you did only the web version, then if they ask you, I need a mobile version as well, then this is how you are going to design. First, always remember, if there is a mobile version, first design in mobile, then go to web, because it's hard to design in mobile. That's why we should do mobile first. So if you could do good job showing everything properly in the mobile, you will be automatically able to show everything really nice in web. Okay, so use the grid system, uh, that will help you in adjusting things easily. So even sometimes if you don't even design mobile also, because you use the grid system, automatically developers will understand, okay, so this much width is there, okay, I need to use 6 columns, or they will automatically understand, then they will code for it.
Okay, so we UI UX designer will design this layout as well.
Yeah, yeah, we have
Content,
to
the content as well.
the content how it should be.
Okay, okay.
We have to design where it is going to
The
be.
responsive stuff the developer will look after.
See, if we If the team which where you're working is asking for the mobile version also, then you might have to design mobile also. Then they will understand, okay, so this area what is there here, this will get adjusted in mobile like this. Sometimes the design might differ a little bit here and there in mobile because of few things. We might want to hide few important things, few things which are not important in mobile because the space is less, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what. Fine. So these are grid system, and there are multiple other grid system. For icons, we have different grid systems. I'll show you. So for fonts, we have different grids. So like we used to use this ruler book, right? When we were kids, we were learning to write. So we used to have these 4 lines.
For mathematics.
Not for mathematics, for text only. We used to have this type of books, right? This way.
Yeah, that's the ruler book is, yes, yes.
Yeah. So this book we used to use. So this is also a grid system we are using to make sure that our handwriting is going right. For example, if you are taking a font here, so if you see these things will go up and down. I'm not very perfect here, but this is how like they used to be. One letter used to go up and the J's and all those things will go up.
Yeah,
It comes down, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that is one type of grid system we use for fonts, and then for icons also we have a different kind of grid system. So these are column grids, these are square modular grids. I'll just put this link here. You can go through them. So vertical column. This is for print. So these are for design, web design layout, I think. So these are the number grids. Okay. So then this is bootstrap. So this is 12 column grid. You can see snap 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you divide by half, it is going to be like this. Full width 4 and 8, 4, 4, 4, 1, 1, 1. Okay. So for phones, the width would be 7 below 768 pixel. Everything is uh, a phone basically. It is considered as a phone. Any size which is like beyond above 768, then that is considered as a tablet. Then this is 9 to 92. Beyond that, it is considered as a uh, laptop. Beyond 1200, it's considered as a wide screen, which are for desktops. But the variation has like changed a lot because of the screens and the DPIs. So there is something called DPI, which is so dots per inch. So mobile screens and all those are based on the dots per inch. There are multiple dots in one single pixel. So that's how the resolution increases. If a screen says 300 DPI, then it is called 300 dots are there for a inch. So PPI is the pixel per inch. So how many pixels are there in a specific inch? Okay. So if somebody says like 300 PPI, that means there are 300 pixels in an inch. Okay. So the screen, that is a technology of a screen in which like screens are made. Yeah, that's one thing. And not know grid systems, and there is something called design systems. Now this is a big one. I'll also tell you something about style guides. So there is a difference between a style guide and a design system. Okay, so these are all the components of the UI. If you see here, you have the colors, which are the primary colors, which are the accent colors, semantic colors. We have different colors. We use neutral colors and gradients. So all these colors, we would be, what do we say? Um, so we put it at one place for the developers to say, "Oh, you have to use only these specific colors." And in the same way for the fonts also, which font for in HTML we have tags like H1, H2, H3. So those are called headings. How the heading should be there, and what font size it should be there, and what is the font family which we are using. All those things we write. For a button, which font you should use, for captions, body, for all of them which you have to use. Then that is in the style guide, it is about typography. Okay, this is about colors. Then we have typography. Then we have buttons, the different components. So it's not just buttons, the form elements also. So we have this how the large button should be, small buttons, other buttons for navigation, loading, and button with icon, without icon, how it should be when it is disabled, what are the different types of buttons you can use uh, uh, in a specific what we say product. Then how you use the input forms. So we have forms, right, where you have this placeholder, this how it should be when it is active, the cursor should look like this. After typing, it should look like this. If it is disabled, if it how it looks like when it is error, when there is error. For password, how it should look. If there is an icon on the left side, how it should look, drop downs and multi selects. And you have search bars, direction forms, date pickers, text boxes. Then other components are like check boxes, radio buttons, selectors, tags, switches, and pagination with dots. How it should be like, we have the sliders, right? So how they should like look like. Then stepper control, like if you are increasing or decreasing the quantity, for how it should look, how the badges should look. For example, you see in few places on the bell icon, you see this phone number 4, right, in reminders, etc. So that badges, these are how they should look like, how the divider line should look like. And the text link, how it is when it is disabled, enabled, and all these things, loading, how the loader should like look. And what are the labels. For example, you want to label something, you want to show, highlight it, how it should look like. And these are the steps, processing from one step one, if it is done, how it should look. Then if you are in the current step, how it should look. And then the next step, how it is going to look. And rating. And segmented control, tabs, one, how the tab should change. Then you have the slider. And avatars, basically the default icon, avatars which are there. For example, we use these in testimonials and different places. And the map pin, how the map pin should look. The marker, oh my god, there's so many things. to go on and on. Like these are the most important things we use in all type components we use in all UIs. If we go forward, how the we have the imagery and iconography. So these are how the tab bar, the bottom tabs we have in the mobile. So for them, how we have to use, these are 16 pixel, 24 pixel icons. The bigger ones, the 48 pixel and the 64 pixel icons. And how the icons, should they be filled, should they be unfilled, or should they be line icons? And how the onboarding screens, when we open a mobile app, we have these onboarding screens, right? So we swipe, just swipe right. So how those images should look like, and if there are any other images, how they should look like. So there are something called empty states also. So I'll tell you how the empty states will be as we go. Then you have these UI elements. So in-app notification alerts, how the alert should be there in the mobile or web. So navigation bars, if you have the right on top buttons, more icon, those things, chat box, list. This is also called a timeline view, and the popovers, how the pop-up and the swipe overs. These are swipe overs. You swipe up and you swipe down. So these are different kinds of UIs. I'll just paste this link for you guys here. You can go through it later and understand all the UI elements which are there. Okay. So this is very interesting, and it's going to be very more and more interesting now, because previous part, all we all what all we did is we just understood the users. Now whatever the understanding and analysis we did and got to know about them, we are going to implement in our design. Okay, so all these elements, we'll be using them in different places. As we go forward in the UI, like when we make the wireframes, I'll show you how you have to use it, and different elements, how they are going to be implemented in each part of the UI, where to use what, I'll be telling you. Okay, in the style guide we are only talking about the UI elements: colors, typography, iconography, imagery, and then UI elements. This is what a style guide contains. If anybody might ask you what is the difference between both. Then you have design system. So design system has, it talks about the content. Of course, all these things are there. Interaction. Then is why something should be like this, how it should not be, and how um, yeah, how it should not be, and also code, code to reuse. Okay, so the design system contains the content, or the content means how the talking should be. Basically, it's not the content, the communication, how it should be. It talks about that. Of course, the all the other things which style guide contains. Another thing, very major thing, which contains is interaction. Then why a element should be like this, why it should not be like that, also is written there. They will also assume you might make it like that, so they will also mention that you should not do this. I'll show you an example how it is. Don't do this and don't do that. Also, they'll be writing, and they will also write the code why, to so that the developers can copy and paste. You need not write it. So it's a combination of multiple teams to make this happen. So then we have distances. Why, how much distance a element should be from another element. So that is also one thing that they give. And they also give about the filters, how much shadow should be there, how much, why the shadow should be this much. All these things also they'll talk. How much the blur should be there. All those things also they'll be talking about. And so opacity, all those things. So even the patterns, how they should be used. And the branding means the logo, uh, basically the colors, patterns, all these things come under branding. Then we just say logo here for now. And the sound, how the sound should be. So the voice, if there is a voice, how the voice should be. It should be a bass voice, it should be a tiny kid's voice. It can be a jingle, it can be very small music. So how the ad, if you are presenting a ad, how the ad should be. So it's completely how a organization design functions. It's completely, well, style guide can be just for one product, but design system is for a brand. Every interaction with the user which happens with the brand is like people will immediately recognize it. So that's the design system. The other day we were looking at some buttons and we were able to recognize, right? So this is Amazon, this is Facebook, and all those things we were able to easily recognize because of the that system only.
Yeah.
So I'll just show you one example. This is the Spotify's example. So in this, they have written everything, how the layout should be. So for example, this is a list. So all the UI elements, it's not easy to get, but we will be learning eventually one by one. As we use them, we learn them. There is something called material design .io, material.io. This is for the Android. All the Android devices use the material design. Basically, not just Android, whole Google uses material design. Everything is consistent. If you go material design guidelines, go inside that, then they start from introduction, how it should be, what it should be. We can see about the navigation. So the principles, it should be predictable, it should be consistent and responsive. This is the measurements. So in mobiles, we have DPs. Okay, so I forgot to tell you something about the fonts. Let me just tell you. The layout and fonts and everything, especially in fonts, we have the units. Okay, so in units we have, for fonts we have px, which is a pixel, and we have points, and then we have rem, and we have em. So we here, if you see, for print screens load, so we also use percentage. I'm just like note it down here. Use percentage also sometimes. EM is the main thing. Okay, I'll tell you why EM is important. So what happens is when we change the layout width from web to this one and this one, the DPI of the screens changes. Where bigger screens, the DPI is less, but for smaller screens, the DPI is dot per inch is higher. So what happens is if you use a pixel or point, the problem with them is this: they are static. Like if you use the if you are using 10 pixel here, then what happens is this will become smaller because the DPI of the screen is higher here. So here in today's screens we have 226 DPI, 226 dots per inch. For web, for display, bigger displays, it is the DPIs are just 128 or some 150. Then the font which looks bigger here looks smaller in these screens when we use the pixel. In 2013, there is some new unit which is brought in, that is called REM. The font is automatically adjusted based on that screen. So that is REM, which is new unit which is introduced by CSS. But that is in CSS only. For us in design, we have only pixels, so we can just convert them. Tell the developers to make sure they use the EMs only. And another one we use is percentage. So based on the percentage, we increase and decrease a different, like if you are using one base font size as 10 pixel, then you in the next, if you want to use 20 pixel, you can give 200% there. So that's all for the developers. I'm just giving you a base idea. And VH and WH is vertical height and vertical width. Basically, if the screen size is from here to here, then if you have to give 100%, we use VH. And if you want to give from here to here, we use, so basically it is horizontal width. Sorry. Um, WH is, I don't know the full form, but it is basically for the horizontal width. Okay. So that's what it is. These are not very important for us, but these are important for developers. But it is good to have idea. For us, it is only everything is pixel here. We will be using pixel. The base pixel is based on the font. So if you are using a font which has like smaller letters, then the font size might be here. But ideal one, most of the fonts used for paragraph is uh, for paragraph you use 14. Then I showed you, right, that H1, H2 for them. We just keep increasing based on this. For everything we just increase by 2 pixel. So this can be from H1 to H6 we have these. Okay. So if you are using for H5, then it becomes 18 that way. You can use this base and add 2 to it to increase, go until H1. So H means heading. Okay, we'll just go back to the design system material one we were talking about, right? Material, yeah. So how the responsive grid works here. So this is for the tablet. So these are the columns. These are the number 2. What they're showing the gutter, and right side and left side we have the margins. I'll tell you about the margins when we are designing. Okay, then we have the layout, how the spacing should be, all these things they talk about. This is also one type of grid, graph grid. For icons, to make icons, we use this type of grids only. 4 dp is a baseline. So this is for Android mobile. That's why they're talking about DPs here. In Android, it is DP. For fonts, we use this SP. For spacing and everything, we use DPs. See, like for each one, how much space should be there. Everything they have written properly. So this is called the design system. Okay, it's not like in how the touch should be, how much distance the touch should work. For example, normally developers what they do is they just put touch only on this icon. But for a finger to touch properly, it should be minimum 48 dp on screen. So that's why. So this much touch is there. You can just go through this material.io. I'll give you this links also. You will understand how each and everything. If you read it, it is really nice. But if you can't read it, at least just scroll through them. You will understand everything. Okay.
Okay.
These are just the components. But if you go here, you can see the icons. This is for the web accessibility guidelines. So accessibility is all about like all the people, everybody who are there, even the blind, even the deaf, basically the specially abled people. For them also, this system should work. That's why they design accessibility. Okay, so how you can design for them? Basically using the sound from here and there. So all those things. If you go to IRCTC, there is something called. I'll show you. If you see this here, you have this font size increase. Um, so the font will become smaller. If you increase this, the font will size will become bigger. This is for the people who has like eyesight is less. For them, it is like this. This is like normal. So they can increase the font size and see it properly. That's what. So that's for accessibility. For in Windows and other places, if you press 5 times shift, you will get the sound. Then it is for people who are completely blind, who only can hear. For them it is. Then developer, how the developers can use the colors, how you can pick colors, responsive design, dark theme, how the dark theme works, all those things. So everything is there. So this is the complete design system. So I think it is already too much of knowledge for today.
Yeah, way too much.
But I think you guys should take notes. It will help. Later you can refer it.
Yes, yes.
Suddenly you feel like you're thrown into an ocean.
Mhm.
I'll send you this XD file. It has everything like the UI principles and all those things. I'll put it.